Today's video is sponsored by Kittle. Hey team, it's Wilson. So I got a DM today from the family over at Kittle to check out their program. Usually I avoid these programs because they tend to be boring or not what I'm looking for. However, this one is just different. I started to browse their platform to check out some of the designs and I was just blown away at what you can achieve simply on your browser. And yeah, this is still in beta. This is by far the most advanced tool you can design your logo on, and you can start simply for free. The templates from the Kittle community and Kittle themselves are simply unmatched if you're looking to perfect the Y2K style or you're just trying to understand how to build a certain style thanks to their uncomplicated UI. But sometimes templates aren't the best option. What if you wanted to design these from scratch, start to finish? Well, I'll show you. We'll be going over 3 primary designs, then using those to build another 3 designs just to show you how advanced this program really is and how easy it is for you guys to have the perfect design for your brand. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. After getting crucified in my last video claiming that I don't know how to design Y2K, shout out to Kittle for making it so easy and putting everything in one spot for you guys. They have categories to the left with elements that just say Y2K, and also they have the typefaces built within the program ready to use. And for this typeface and this design, we're going to start off with Draco. Now I love the Draco typeface because it's streamlined and it has a sort of futuristic Blade Runner sort of look, and it's going to be perfect for this design that we start off with. So let's get started with Kittle. Just double type the type box or highlight it so you can adjust what it says. Obviously, unless your brand is headline, you don't want it to say headline. I'm just going to put in my personal brand revision, and that's going to be the logo that we use, the logo name that we're going to be using for the rest of this whole project. Now, after doing that, we're going to go straight into the effects panel and we're going to click the third shadowing. Now, the effects panel is extremely effective. I really love this. And after clicking the third one, you can go straight into editing. Now, anyone who's used any sort of program know how hard it is to get an extrusion like this if you don't have the right computer, because you have to make multiple blending layers, and that is so annoying unless you want to build it in 3D, which is also annoying. But Kittle makes it easy for us. So we're going to set all these to 0 except for the outline width to 6. Then we'll head over to the decorations in the same effects panel, and we're just going to pick the last one, and we're going to set the weight of the top option to 6% and the distance to 51. Now that's going to be it for the primary typeface. Next, we're just going to head over to the secondary subheading or a brand line that you put into Y2K typefaces like Revision Studios. And for that, we're going to head over to Google Translate. We're going to type in Studios, and from there we're just simply gonna translate that into Japanese and copy that over into Kittle just by going over to heading again, or just by tapping any random letters when you're on the canvas, and you can just copy and paste that in. We're gonna be using the typeface Noto Sans JP Bold. Now I found this was the best typeface for the Japanese characters, and having it bold just gives it a little bit more substance to match the rest of the typeface / design, because we don't want too much contrast between these two lettering. We want it to flow. We don't want there to be a sort of hierarchy. The hierarchy would just be built with the rest of the design. It's just going to flow really nicely. From there, once we got that done, we're going to head over back to the effects panel, and we're just going to be setting the same things: offset 0, angles -80 or 0, but the width, we're going to set that one to 11 this time, just to make it more substantial, like I said before, and match the rest of the typeface. And that's going to be it for the primary look of the design. Now we're going to be adding some elements, and now this is where Kittle comes in very clutch. They have a whole element section, and in that section they have abstract elements, and guess what they have in there? They have Y2K elements, which is a game changer, honestly. And from here, we're just going to be looking for an oval shape. Now oval shapes have been coming really into the mainstream headlines. I think primarily because of Cortez. I feel like they brought this trend to life. And we're just going to be holding shift as we scale it to suit the width of our logo / design. Now I am using a Mac laptop, so I don't know what the settings would be for Windows. We're just going to send that to the back just by right clicking and pressing send back. Then we're going to set the color fill to nothing, so it just has the outline of the black rather than the filled in white, because we don't really need that. We're just going to change the background color to a more biased like red or gray, just so it's easier to see the rest of our typeface, because with white you don't know what's hiding, what's transparent and what's not. And with this red lighting, it allows us to get some understanding of what elements that we have on our page. Now this is primarily the design in itself. We're just going to add in one more element, which will be a little rocket ship, which is going to follow the direction of the oval, and then just some stars to clean it up. And now you can find those within the Kittle Elements effects panel. And what I love about Kittle, you can also add in your own elements. Now I didn't try this feature, but you can add in SVJs and you can add in JPEGs from any sort of pack that you guys have, which is absolutely phenomenal. Lastly, we're just going to color the design just by clicking the different elements that we have and setting the color. And what I love about Kittle also is their document colors, which are open inside the color panel, and it will just come up with all the different colors that you're using, which is also another clutch thing. And I really love how easy it is instead of going through and looking for the eyedropper and making sure you got the right color, because colors tend to be the most important thing when it comes to finalizing in a design, and it makes or breaks how people view you as a brand. Like, color theory is something very important. There was a whole class that I had to do about it in university. It was like a 4-day class on just color theory and understanding why color is important. So yeah, just saying. Now that we got design 1 out of the way, we're going to go directly into design 2 without wasting any time. Let's go directly into the type panel, add in our headline, make sure your type is on caps, and put in your brand name. I'm just going to put revision like before, and just make sure the text box is scaled directly. Now for the type that we're going to be using for this design, we're going to be using Liberation for 7 kicks. I just found that this typeface works really well, especially within the Y2K theme. Before getting the effect that we want, we're just going to add in our second heading, and that's going to be just using the typeface generic techno. And like before, we're just going to put in studios because I don't know, it just works. Revision Studios. Everyone's a studio now, but they've never touched a studio in their life. Anyway, let's get directly into scaling this down and making sure it fits where we want it to fit. Or you can just put it to the side for now and we will come back to it later. We're going to head directly into the effects panel, go to the third one like we did before, offset at 0, offset at 2 or 0, angle on 16 this time, and outline width on 18. We want this one to be a little bit more thick. We're just going to be introducing a white color as we go because we have the background set to gray now for that neutral color. Then we're going to go to the studios panel and we're going to go into the effects panel to the third one. Same thing as always, 0, -180 or all the way to the end, or 0. But this time we're going to set the outline width to just 8. We might come back later and make it a bit thicker because we're going to be hiding some stuff in the background of this typeface, and that's all going to make sense later. Next, we're just gonna change the color of the typeface. I'm gonna be doing this one as I go, and that blue is looking okay, but I don't feel like it's perfect, but it's gonna work for now. We might go back and change it. We're gonna head over to the elements panel and get a sort of half dial that looks like a cluster gauge. Is that what you call it? The things in the cars when you see it go fast, you know what I mean. Anyway, once we've got that element in, we're just going to be holding shift to stretch the actual element in itself so it fits the full typeface, and just holding that down. And if you don't want to stretch it anymore, just let go of shift so you can adjust it. I don't know if it's different for Windows, but I can't really check that. Anyway, once we've got that ready, we're just going to go over to the border weight and set that one to 18. Set the color to white. Just right click it and send that one to the back. Next, we're just going to duplicate it, holding Option and dragging down, or Command C, Command V, whichever is most convenient for you. Then use the little rotation tool that pops up when you click an element and rotate that over. And now we're just going to drag that up and align it with the rest of the typeface until we got it how we look. Make sure you right click and send it to the back. Now everything looks like it's just a big offset, and now the typeface and the design is coming together. We're just going to add in some little star elements to break up the very straight lines that are going on. Now for the star in itself, we're just going to go into the object settings and we're going to be playing around with it. We're going to set the outline color to another white, and we're going to set the secondary outline to nothing. Then we're going to fill it in with black. After you've got it like this, just duplicate it, holding Option, dragging upwards, scaling it down and setting the color for the one in the middle to the same color as revision, so blue. And that's going to be it for this one. Make sure to group it, so you can just highlight everything and press Command G to group everything, and you can press Command G to ungroup it also. So if you press Command G twice, it won't be grouped, just to let you guys know. After you got that group, you just want to drag it to the corners and scale that down until it's like almost flowing into the typeface. So it's like, looks like a shooting star that's cut up by revision, if that sort of makes sense. And that's what we're going to want to do. Then we're just going to hold Option and duplicate it to the other side at the bottom of revision, so we have that symmetry going on with the design. Next, you're just going to highlight the whole design and press Command G. That way the whole object or logo is going to be grouped together, and this is going to allow us to create a sort of secondary offset for the whole design in itself. And we're going to be doing that by grouping this whole type together. So just highlight it, Command G, and then just duplicating it, or Command C, Command V to make a copy and paste. And the one at the bottom is the one we're going to apply the new effects to. Basically, once you got that sorted, you're just going to go into the layers panel and drop that down, and we're going to start from the bottom upwards. So the first Illustrator item or object, we're going to go into the object settings and just adjust it to make it look a bit more thicker. Now, I'm not going to say the numbers for these because it's just depending on how thick you make your original design, and you just want to make a sort of offset. So basically this is going to go behind all the typography that we have currently. So I'm just going in and getting the base or the biggest item in whichever group and making the object weight a bit thicker, or a substantial amount thicker, so you can see the offset once we put it behind the original typeface. For all the objects and elements, it's going to be the border weight that we're adding to. And for the typography, we're going to have to go back into the effects panel and manually adjust the same offset. Once you're happy on how it looks in terms of all the border weights and the weight for the typography in the effects panel, you just want to change the color to something that's going to be different. Now I'm setting the color to black, but you can set it to any color, but this color is going to be the secondary offset. So this is basically how you build these layers within this program. For the typography, the outline width is just going to be brought up a little bit, not too much, just so we can fill in those little corner edges next to the end of the element. And we're going to also set that color to black too. And like I said before, it's just honestly up to eye to make it look even. Now you can put in all the same numbers, but since these elements are all differently positioned within the group, it's going to be hard to get those correct measurements to get the perfect offset. So once you've got the offset ready, all you're going to want to do is just group it all together and make sure you send it to the back. And we're also going to be filling in some spaces within the design just by using the basic shapes. I found that using circles was the best way of performing this task because the design is a bit more on the oval shape. There's no complete straight lines in terms of the design, except for the corners. So we're just trying to mask in those backgrounds to make a perfect offset. Once you've got the placement right, you just want to select everything and just Command G or group it, and you can set the color to white and just send that to the back. And we're going to grab this one that we had before with the offset. Now this is designed with all the offsets. Make sure that's all grouped and nicely neat, and right click and send that one to the back. Then we're just going to make sure all the offsets with the typography, the original designs, are in there too, and make sure they're grouped together. So we're just basically making a group with the circles to mask in the areas, and a separate group for the design with the new offsets, and then putting that to the back to make this perfect offset and aligning it all together. And bam, that's how you make a secondary offset. Now you can repeat this process multiple times to get multiple offsets, making a cool looking effect, but this is essentially the best way you can make a secondary offset. After that, you just want to group the whole design together, and that's design 2 finished. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. Now we're going to move on to the third design, which is probably my favorite design. Let's get straight into it. Like before, we'll start by typing out our brand name, Revision, in all caps. And then this time we're going to be using the typeface Brinky Mono. And like before, just make sure you drag out the text box so your typography is looking all nice. Just head over to the effects panel and grab the third option. This time the offset will be at 7, angle will be at -87, and outline will be at 7. From there, we'll just introduce a new color to those effects just so we can see it on the background. We're just going to set the inside text to pink, and we're going to set the offset or the effects panels to black. Then we're going to head over to the elements panel and find a heart. Then we're going to be making a 3 heart element, but I found out they have a 3 heart element within their abstract and Y2K elements. I'm just making everything completely from scratch because this is design 3 and this is meant to be the hardest option. Once we've got our heart, we're just going to be searching for a tail so we can make it look like it's a shooting heart with the design. We're going to start with this shooting tail, and the first thing you want to do is just rotate it and then just hold shift to warp it and match the length that you want perfectly with your design. I want it to start between the O and head all the way up to the R, so that's what I'm doing right now. I'm just scaling it down. Then we're just going to scale down the heart and bring it to the front and make sure it aligns right here. Since that's looking okay, we're going to go in and just make some final adjustments to make sure it looks perfect. Then we're going to click the heart and go into the object settings and just play with the colors so it matches the typography. And we're going to do the same thing to the tail. We're going to be setting this inside color to black, and we're also going to set the offset that they have in the middle to another black so it looks like a solid tail coming from the heart itself. Make it look different, I turned off the inside offset that the object already came with, or the element came with, and I felt like this was a more unique look. After we got our object complete, just make sure it's grouped and scale it so it fits the rest of the design. Like I said, just beneath the O, and just right click the design once you got it in the right placement and send it to the back of the design. Once you got your final fitment, we're going to head back over into the elements panel and get the same heart, and we're going to be using it in the bottom right corner of the design near the ION. Once you've got your element loaded, you just want to scale it down so it's easier to work with, and then you're going to duplicate it twice just by holding Option and dragging across, or Command C, Command V, and aligning it with the design using the alignment tool in the object settings. Next, we're just going to color in our hearts with pink, white, pink, just following the same art direction that we have for our initial big shooting heart. Finally, we'll just group everything together and align it with the rest of the design. And we're going to be making adjustments as we go to make sure it fits perfectly. But now you can see the shell of the design in itself. To add some symmetry to the design, we're going to go into the elements panel and go into the basic shapes, introduce this square and turn it into a rectangle just by playing with the little adjustment points and then setting it just beneath revision. Now this is going to be a frame for our subtext that we have. Set this to black so it all looks like one object, and this is a very tedious process of just making sure everything lines up and looks perfect with the bottom of the heart, the big heart, and the bottom of the smaller heart. So we're just going to go back and be making those adjustments until we get it how we want it to look like. After we got the placement perfect, we're just going to add in a subheading, and this time we're just going to name it Club or Lovers Club, and we're going to be using the typeface generic techno, and I felt like it was just a really good subheading or subtypography that we could be using with this design. And we're not going to be doing anything special in the effects panel. We're just going to be setting the color to white, bringing that to the front and dragging that on top of our little frame that we've created for it, and just making sure everything aligns perfectly. I just decided to switch the name to Lovers Club, just sort of make something different. I guess it's not really different, but it just looked a little bit nicer and it suits the theme of the design, Lovers Club. And like before, just scale it down so it fits within that little frame that we created, and perfect. Lastly, we're just going to group everything, make a duplicate, and we're going to be doing the same thing we did with design 2. We're going to be creating a secondary offset by going back in and adding a border weight or adjusting the effects panel to make it a bit more thick around the borders to make a secondary outline for the design. Nothing special here. I'm just going in, clicking the different elements and adjusting the border weight until I get a beautiful thick outline. And like before, we're just going to set the color to a different color and send it to the back, and then we're going to align everything to make a perfect looking design. After the same treatment as we did before, you should have something like this. Then we're going to get the original layer and bring it to the top, make sure everything is aligned, and now we have a beautiful secondary offset. Now to bring the design together, we're just going to be adding this half-tone element, like a gradient sort of, behind the heart, just so we have another point of, I guess, attraction with the design. This isn't really needed. I just thought these looked really cool with the design, and it adds to the whole Y2K aesthetic. Set the same color to the color of the new offset, and it just looks like an addition to the whole offset in itself. And yeah, that's basically it for 3 designs. That's how you do them, and this was all done within an hour period. Now that you have these designs, what I love about Kittle is it's an effective way to go in and make any changes that you want very efficiently. That's the one thing I hate with using Illustrator. Once you make an offset or once you've built that object, going backwards, it takes a solid 2 to 3 hours, and it's just a hassle with revisions and stuff like that. But with Kittle, that's not a problem. If somebody wants to change the brand name, you can just go in, type in the new brand name, which is perfect. Just to close off this video, I'm going to be creating another 3 designs in fast forward or speed mode using the frames that we've had before, because I want to show you guys how effective this whole editing directly inside the program is. Make sure you guys go check out my design templates that I've posted on Kittle, and these are the designs that I've posted actually, and you guys can edit them for your own brand and use them in your own brand concepts. But if you are on the free license, you have to have a attribution, so you have to make sure you tag the artist or the person who originated the templates. But if you're on the pro, you have full commercial license, 1 gig of unlimited space, and you can work on unlimited projects and unlimited vector exports, which is absolutely sick. And it's only $10 a month as opposed to competitors. And I would never recommend anything that I wouldn't use myself, and I know a lot of you guys would benefit from this, and you guys are starting out and don't have the access to some Adobe programs or any other programs, and this is by far the best alternative for clothing and streetwear if you guys just want to learn or get a feel on how to use and edit vector programs to make a logo, or just get an introduction into design in general. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and shout out to Kittle for sponsoring this video. I'll see you guys next week with the samples. I know I said last week it was going to be this week, but we had delays again, and they're getting delivered tomorrow, and you guys will get an update. So I'll see you guys when I see you. I love you. Peace.